The city of Rochester's 311 hotline after last week's massive snowstorm. So what happens when you call? What kind of response do you get?
That's the subject of this week's Good Question Report. Pat Taney live now outside the 311 Center on Mount Read Boulevard. And Pat, you spent some time inside the 311 Center.
I did, after so many of you asked about what really happens here. Folks like Alana Sansone, who wrote us, said she called 311 several times last week and did not get a response. Others we heard from on social media said, hey, I got a response about 15 minutes after calling 311. So what gives? Well, let's take you inside to figure it out.
First, look at this cell phone video, Clinton Avenue downtown after last Tuesday's storm. A walker who can't use the sidewalk because of the snow nearly hit. Scott Filkowski watched it happen, called 311 to get the sidewalk shoveled.
When do you get a response?
Sometimes it could be days, sometimes it's weeks.
Ever in 24 hours?
Never in 24 hours. What other calls are coming in that are maybe delaying the response of us calling in?
Sure. Well, that's a great question. You know, how do we prioritize calls that come into 311?
John Merklinger, director of the 311 Center.
It kind of depends on what you're calling for. Your neighbor might have got instant service because it's a different type of issue. Yours might take a little longer, a little more research.
These people said they had to wait days before getting a response. Why is that?
Could be that sidewalk contractor didn't make it out there. Could be they went through, plowed the sidewalk, and then the street plows pushed it back in again as they were doing the road.
Here's how it works. You call.
Okay, and your first name?
Report a problem. 311 alerts the responding department.
Departments have sort of set their priorities as far as how quickly they'll respond to whatever the public's question is and how fast they can make a repair.
On Tuesday, during that heavy snowstorm, how many calls did you get here?
We got about 4,600 calls that day.
And just 19 operators that day, and they're not just dealing with the snow.
It could be parking violations, it could be street lights that are out, it might be potholes. It really is sort of the jack of all trades.
How often should they call back if they're not getting a response?
For snow plowing, we'll say, okay, they're out plowing now. You know, they're 2 hours into it. The route takes between 6 and 8 hours. You know, if at that point they haven't come down and done your street, you should call back.
So you're following up on these calls?
We do, and we also make random callbacks. You know, did you get the service you asked for? How was that service level?
Operators understand you're frustrated. They simply ask this.
Please be patient. We're out there. We're plowing.
I'll tell you, after visiting with them, some newfound respect for those operators. You know, during Tuesday's storm, each operator took 30 calls per hour throughout that day during the storm, hearing from all sorts of people. As you can imagine, a lot of them frustrated. Their streets weren't plowed, so they were dealing with elevated tempers as well. As for that Clinton Avenue situation I told you about at the beginning of the piece, city crew was out there last night after we asked them about that. They also say they're going to investigate why it took so long to get a response after calling 311. We also did some digging for you. If you'd like to look at the average response time for most of the popular calls here to 311, head to our website right now, WHEC.com. Back to you guys.
Interesting stuff there. Pat Taney live from Mount Read Boulevard in Rochester. Thank you.
Yeah, and if you have a good question for Pat, send him an email at goodquestion@WHEC.com.
We have